We are live. That's right. Few things I want to talk about before I open up the chat to the panel. I'm gonna let the list populate. Y'all know the drill. Where you from? Where you at? What are you doing? Uh, I see that Probellum is signing a lot of fighters, making a lot of moves. I see that the most recent network partnership, the promoter they've partnered up more recently with, is Canada's own Yvon Michel, Jim. If you follow world boxing, you'll know that Jim is a legitimate outfit, the same as Wasserman, the same as Sean Boxing. And they've partnered up with a lot of smaller outfits. The biggest outfit that they've partnered up with would have to be Wasserman. But they've partnered up with a lot of small local outfits like Sean Boxing in the Dominican Republic that do smaller local shows. Some are bigger than others. Like Yvonne Michelle's outfit, I would say that's a bigger outfit than a Sean Boxing, for example. It's a bigger outfit. Um, Yvonne Michelle, that's more or less Artur Beterbeev's next fight. A part of that fight, it is an Yvonne Michelle promotion because two of his female fighters are going to be fighting on that card, Kim Clavel and Marie-Eve Dicaire. And Probellum, Richard Schaefer's new promotional outfit, media, whatever it is, they've partnered up with them. And what I'm waiting to see is something in terms of a platform because I see them making all these alliances and they're supposed to be working with all these different outfits around the world. But in what capacity? In what respect? They're signing fighters, but where would you see their fighters fight? Or is it that they're going to use the network partnerships of other outfits in order to broadcast those fighters' fights? To no one's surprise, Nonito Donaire, who's been with Richard Schaefer this whole time, right? He's a Probellum fighter now. He fights on Probellum. He has a mandatory due against Raymart Gaballo, right? So when you think about that, okay, you're a Probellum fighter now. Casimiro's fight with what's this guy Butler? Casimiro's fight, the purse bid for that fight, it was won by Probellum. They placed the winning bid. Where exactly are you supposed to see that fight? Are they going to have a digital platform? Because I see that they're making all these moves, but I don't know exactly where you're supposed to see their fighters fight. If Regis Prograis is a Probellum fighter, when he has a fighter, he's going to have a fight. Where would you see it? Or would they be relying on the network partnerships that other outfits that they work with? Would they be relying on them to give those fighters a platform? Because all I see is that they're signing guys. They got a couple up and comers, one or two familiar faces. You know, they got Badu Jack. He's going to be fighting in Dubai. Nonito Donaire has a mandatory. Janriel Casimiro has a mandatory, right? You know, where are those fights going to go down? Where would Americans, for example, be able to see those fights? And that's what I'm most curious in. That's what has my curiosity the most. Where are you supposed to see these people fight? Because all I see is, you know, Probellum's definitely making moves. They're making moves, big moves, small moves, signing fighters, making network alliances around the world. But is it their intention to funnel all this content to one digital platform? If they're going to be showing fights anywhere from New Zealand to the Dominican Republic to Germany to Canada, if they plan on showing those fights on some sort of platform, depending on what the price point is, yeah, I might actually buy it. Like I might actually subscribe. You know, it also, you know, quality control matters, the quality of the cards overall. But if you're talking about like a $9 a month or a $10 a month subscription, yeah, I might do that to see some world boxing. It all depends. It all depends. Um, it's ambitious what they're trying to do. It seems ambitious, but it also feels immaterial. It also feels like, you know, like, what are you guys doing? You're jumping into bed with all these different outfits. What's the end game here? What are you trying to do? Because I see all these network partnerships. Oh, we partnered up with Probellum. To what extent? So there's that. Maris Briedis, the reigning IBF cruiserweight champion, he's going to be in action this week, over the weekend, against, I think the guy's name is Artur Mann. I think that's the guy's name. And, you know, that's not a high profile fight. That's not his mandatory. They've actually chosen a mandatory for him. It's a guy from Australia that goes by the name. I had to screenshot it because the guy's got a really funny sounding name. Where is it, man? Where is it? The guy's name is Opataya, cruiserweight guy from Australia. That is Maris Briedis' mandatory challenger. The significance of this is, okay, the guy he's about to fight this weekend, that's a voluntary. Beyond that, they've got pressure on them to make the Lawrence Okolie fight in a timely fashion. Because if they don't, he's going to have to fight that mandatory. That's the way that works. That because he's already got a mandatory that they've chosen, you only got but so much time before you can make a unification match. And you better do it in a hurry. You better do it in a jiffy because the IBF will order that fight between you and that guy before you know it. So there's that to consider. You want to keep an eye out for that fight. Jaron was good. Jaguar was good. SSB. Candice Moody. Aye. Pull check in the building. Slide and counter. Spotlight fight 1, 2, 3. Aye. Gary King Frog. Hey, Gary, you know a guy named Opataya? Cruiserweight guy. He's Maris Briedis' mandatory challenger now. Don't ask me what's good. Carlos Valenciano was good. Eson was good. AJJJJ was good. James Jackson was good. Rob was good. Megan was good. Buried Rhythms was good. You know what I'm saying? And we in a building. We in a building. Leo was good. Lemon Pepper Chitlins was good. LeRound was good. Jaguar, all the way in Mexico, was good. You know what I'm saying? Northeast Slopes was good. Kid Top of the Skull. You know what I'm saying? And it's a lot of things going on. I reiterate, Maris Briedis is going to be fighting Artur Mann this weekend. That is a voluntary title defense, not a mandatory. His mandatory is a guy from Australia that goes by the name Opataya. And this puts pressure on Maris Briedis and Lawrence Okolie to make their unification match in a timely fashion. Should Maris Briedis emerge the victor, should he win this weekend, they got to go straight into that unification match. They don't got no time to play around because the IBF already has a mandatory for him, and it don't take them long to order it. So they got to move on that. You want to pay attention to that this weekend. Now, as far as where you can see the card, I don't fucking know. I don't know of any U.S. broadcast partner for Maris Briedis versus Artur Mann or whatever the guy's name is. I don't know anybody over here that's showing it. Obviously, I'm going to look around on a day to see if I can watch the fight. Maris Briedis is a quality operator. He sometimes has off fights. He sometimes has off nights. He does. Everybody has them. He does too. He's not immune. But you want to pay attention to that fight. You want to keep up with that fight. Yeah, they got to move on that, Alex. They definitely got to move on that because if the IBF already has a mandatory, you know what time it is. They already picked the guy, so they got to move on that. Now what I wanted to talk to you guys about, I'm gonna put up a screenshot from a conversation that I saw between E. Shea Smith and Ring Magazine editor-in-chief Douglas Fisher. Dougie Fisher says they'll scream bloody murder about how supposedly corrupt the sanctioning bodies are, but at the same time they want everybody to play by the sanctioning body's rules, and they'll proudly tell you they only recognize those belts and not the Ring Magazine or concept of a lineal champion. To which Ishe Smith said, "Facts, Doug. They'll say they are corrupt and make fighters fight mandatories who shouldn't be, then say Fury should fight as mandatory. It's total bullshit. They forget in all of this, the fighters are paying fees every fight." Take care of this super chat. How the hell are you? Can you rank the best Rocky movies 1 through 5, not including Balboa? Much respect. Yes, I can do that. For me, the best film of the Rocky series that was a serious drama, for me, my favorite was Rocky 2. After Rocky 2 comes Rocky 4. After Rocky 4 comes Rocky 3. After Rocky 3 comes Rocky 5. After Rocky 5 comes Rocky 1. Rocky 1 out of the entire series is the movie I like the least out of the Rocky series. I feel it set the stage very good for everything that came after it. But for me, the best one of those movies that really pulled on my heartstrings when I saw it was Rocky 2. When he actually won the fight. Because for those of you that remember, in Rocky, he don't win the fight. He loses the fight. But because the fight was so close, They had a rematch. That was Rocky 2. And in Rocky 2, that's where he became the heavyweight champion. That's my favorite one of those movies. My second favorite one of those movies is Rocky 4 for obvious reasons. The montages, the music, the fight, which involved very little boxing, by the way, because that was just a barroom brawl, if you think about it in terms of a boxing match. And that's how I like them. My order is 2, 4, 3, 5, 1. That is my order. 2, 4, 3, 5, 1. Back to what I was talking about. Ishe Smith and Dougie Fisher don't feel that Tyson Fury should fight Dillian Whyte. And a lot of the points that they're raising, I have to say, they don't make a lot of sense because, Dougie Fisher's talking about corrupt sanctioning bodies, right? But it would be corruption to not give Dillian Whyte the title shot. That would be corruption. Corruption would be depriving him of the title shot, not giving it to him. Ishe Smith says that the fans, basically that Tyson Fury shouldn't have to fight a mandatory, a guy that doesn't deserve it. But how could you say that Dillian Whyte doesn't deserve it? We all know the plight of Dillian Whyte. We all know how long he's been waiting to fight for the green belt. He talked about sanctioning fees. Well, Dillian Whyte paid several sanctioning fees to hold on to that position, to climb up those ranks from the silver title to the interim title. And what I see is a blatant disregard for Dillian Whyte in favor of Tyson Fury. When Tyson Fury got the fight for the title, that he got a title shot that Dillian Whyte was supposed to get, in a nutshell. Napoli says, I hope Briedis Okoli does happen and both Eddie and Schaefer iron things out. That fight would be a classic, in my opinion. I agree. For those that don't know, though, Schaefer's not a part of that picture, Napoli. Maris Briedis is promoted by the Sarlin brothers / Wazerman. They have a good relationship, so that shouldn't be a hard fight to make. And Eddie can definitely make it worth the Latvians' while to come over to England or come over, do the fight. It shouldn't be a problem. Back to what we were talking about. Ishe Smith's tweet reads, facts, Doug. They'll say they're corrupt and make fighters fight mandatories who shouldn't be. Is he saying that Dillian Whyte should not be the mandatory challenger? If Dillian shouldn't be the mandatory challenger, then who should be? He says, it's total bullshit. They forget in all of this, the fighters are paying fees for every fight. And I think that Ishe is forgetting that Dillian Whyte pays sanctioning fees for every version of the WBC title he's had to hold just to get here. He had to pay sanctioning fees for the silver title. He had to pay sanctioning fees, has to pay sanctioning fees for the interim title. It's not just Tyson Fury that has to pay sanctioning fees. And what I see is brazen favoritism. There's no other way to put it. It's favoritism. That y'all don't really give a shit about Dillian. In a nutshell, what the argument is, y'all don't give a shit about Dillian, and y'all don't give a shit about his title shot. And that's all well and good, but they're not relying on your money to make that kind of fight. That's a huge fight in the United Kingdom, whether the Americans want to accept it or not. And that's the problem, that Americans think if they're not invited to the party, it's not a party, when they don't need you for that party. That fight fills up a fucking stadium over there, all right? It fills up a stadium. Moreover, if Tyson don't fight this guy, right? He don't fight him. He sits out. He waits for the winner of Joshua versus Usyk 2, which is supposed to be going down in the spring. He'd essentially be sitting out for a year, another year. And he just did that with Deontay Wilder. So you want him to walk into a huge fight, the biggest fight in the division, off a year of inactivity with ring rust to shake off. How is that better? There's some more tweets here, some more screenshots that I got. Dougie Fisher says, Joshua and the Whyte Valine winner should step aside and allow for an immediate undisputed clash. And I wonder if Dougie had this energy when Wilder and the arbitrator ruled in Wilder's favor. I wonder if he had that same energy. I mean, to me, it's all bullshit, You basically want Anthony Joshua to sacrifice his rematch clause just because you don't think he deserves it. But at the end of the day, that's not a fucking argument. It's not. I mean, if we're going to be real, that's not an argument. Your personal preferences are not an argument. For example, I know that rematch is going to do huge numbers regardless of who wins. So there's a financial incentive in it for Usyk, and there's a financial incentive in it for Anthony Joshua. Huge money fight for the fighters. That's the first thing. The second thing is they already agreed to this, so you can't be childish about it. A lot of people get childish these days when it comes to rematch clauses, but they only get upset at rematches when it's convenient. I wonder if Dougie would like to see a Lomachenko versus Lopez rematch. I wonder how he felt about this weekend's rematch that only came about because of a rematch clause. Does he have the same energy for Wilder versus Fury 3 that he has for Joshua versus Usyk 2? Because I don't think that needed a trilogy. I don't care how fun the fight was this weekend. That is the reason. That fight is the reason we didn't get an undisputed title fight. It's because of that fight, all right? So if there was anything unnecessary here, it was that fight. Because what we saw this weekend is the same thing we already saw in February of last year. Tyson Fury beating the shit out of this guy that we knew he was going to beat the shit out of this guy because he beat the shit out of him last year. All right. To continue, he says, Joshua and the Whyte Valine winner should step aside, allow for an immediate undisputed clash. We keep putting it off for contractual and sanctioning body shit, and it keeps getting further away from us. But whatever. The boxing industry has trained fans how to think. No, Dougie, you're just very inconsistent. And we went over this when it came to Jermell Charlo, that you're sitting there ranking at Ring Magazine a guy like Vasyl Lomachenko with no belts, and that's fine. You can do that. But how do you gloss over Jermell Charlo, who's the lineal unified champion of his division? You rank Gennady Golovkin, who fought less champions than Jermell Charlo. You ranked him at a time when he didn't even have as many belts as Jermell Charlo. And before you tell me, or before you make the argument that you don't care about the alphabets, then why are you talking about his title defenses? Or why were you? Because that was one of the biggest things when it came to Gennady Golovkin, that he has all these title defenses. Oh, he's about to break Bernard Hopkins' record. All these pundits, and I talked about this in my last live, that the way that boxing is covered in America, it's a joke. It is a joke. Because these pundits are just as wishy-washy as the fans. They're guilty of the same hypocrisy. At the end of the day, if you was okay with this weekend's fight, even though you already saw it twice, if you was okay with this weekend's fight, then don't fucking cry me a river about Joshua versus Usyk 2, because we never would have even got that fight if it wasn't for this fight. This fight this weekend is what led us to that fight. And if you wasn't complaining about that, then don't complain about this. Now, Ishe says, honestly, y'all cap for the best fighting the best. But when I say do away with Fury's mandatory and let the unification begin, y'all say, no, Whyte deserves the fight or whoever wins. And I think it's because Ishe doesn't have, I don't think Ishe thinks much of Dillian Whyte, I gather. You know, I'm assuming, because Dillian Whyte is one of the best fighters. He's been a consensus top 10 heavyweight for at least the last 3-4 years. He's been consistently in the top 10 ranked standings. Moreover, there are too many people out there that already know the plight of Dillian Whyte. They know that he's been waiting for that title shot since before Fury had the belt. So how does it look that Fury got a title shot that should have went to Dillian Whyte, that Brazil got a title shot that should have went to Dillian Whyte, that Luis Ortiz has challenged for the WBC title 2 times as a voluntary, but Dillian Whyte never got to fight for it once. Now a completely different guy has the belt. And what you're saying is that Fury should just skip him, even though he's his mandatory, even though Fury doesn't have access to the winner of Joshua versus Usyk. He can't fight them. The rematch clause is exercised. It's done. They're going to fight in the spring. So if Fury can't fight either one of those guys, why shouldn't he take care of his mandatory? Why do people keep advocating for Fury to skip out on the same responsibilities Joshua used to satisfy on a regular basis? Appreciate that, AJJJJ. I don't understand that. Joshua used to fight his mandatories, no problem. Imagine what people would have said if Anthony Joshua dropped the WBA title to skip out on Povetkin, or if he dropped the IBF title to skip out on Takam, or to skip out on Pulev, or if he dropped the WBO title to skip out on Usyk. What would people say? But when it's a fighter, and I'm going to say it, when it's a fighter that they like, oh, no, he should be able to do that. Yeah, he should get special privileges. He should be able to skip out just because I like him. That's not a reason, bro. That's not a reason. Fury got the same responsibility that Joshua has had for the last 3 years. So what is the fucking problem with him just taking care of that guy while he waits for the winner of Joshua versus Usyk? It's not like y'all think Dillian Whyte is a good fighter. Y'all don't think he's a good fighter. Y'all think he's a crash test dummy, right? So Fury should beat him easy. What's the problem? And no, I'm not advocating that he get back in the ring this year. I don't think Fury should fight again this year. I think he should wait, maybe fight in late spring or early summer, get some rest, chill with your wife, bust a couple nuts, have some fun, go to the beach, take pictures, buy some shit with the money you just made, live. You know what I mean? Because you got plenty of time to take care of Dillian. You ain't going to get the winner of Joshua versus Usyk until the fall or the winter of next year. You're not going to get the winner of that fight. So you can't say, well, let the dude, skip the dude and let him sit out for a year. Well, how is that good? Fury is the one that said that training for fights and staying busy is better for his mental health. And they're acting as if this is an either or situation, and it's not either or because there is no or. You don't have access to Usyk. You don't have access to the undisputed title fight. If you drop your belt now, it's not to fight the winner of Joshua versus Usyk because the winner hasn't been crowned yet. It wouldn't make the only reason you would drop the belt isn't to fight the winner of Joshua versus Usyk. It would be so you could just skip out on Dillian and duck him. That's because there's no point in dropping the belt. You drop the belt now. It's not like dropping the belt gets you the winner of that fight. It doesn't get you the winner of that fight. They're tied up right now. Period. You don't get the winner of that fight till later on next year. Period. You don't. You don't have access to him. So in the meantime, why not take care of this guy? A lot of Americans are downplaying the value of this fight. A lot of Americans are downplaying the financial value, the financial gains of Dillian Whyte versus Tyson Fury in the United Kingdom, when the Brits will tell you, I don't have to tell you, the Brits will tell you themselves, that is a huge fight over there. They sell out a stadium with that fight. They sell pay-per-views with that fight. And before you go thinking that this weekend's fight is the end-all and be-all, guess what? It wasn't. This fight sold less than the last one did. That makes it a smaller fight. It doesn't look like it flopped. I wouldn't call it a financial flop. Looks like it was a financial success because the operational costs for this fight were lower. The second fight was more expensive. Bigger guarantees, $5.4 million in advertising during the Super Bowl. They spent a lot of money to put that second fight together. But the third fight, they didn't spend as much money, so the operational costs were lower. Break-even point is easier to hit. Looks like they made some money, all right? So I'm not going to call it a flop, but overall, it's a smaller fight than the second one. How do I know? It sold 200,000 less pay-per-view buys. 200,000 less. It's not a bigger fight. Just because people jumped on Twitter after the fight and was bugging out, reacting to it, that doesn't mean they spent money on Twitter. You can't tell who bought the fight and who stole it. Same on Facebook. Same on Instagram. The only way you know if it's a big fight is if it made big money. And this fight did less than the last fight. That's not my opinion. That's not my imagination. The last fight did between 8 and 850. This one did just under 6. Not even 6. I'm rounding up because I know that's what they do. 6. It's smaller than last year's fight. That's just facts. It's smaller. 48 million jump tube, that's the number. And you know that out of the 48, approximately anywhere between 40 and 50% of whatever came in goes to the cable and satellite companies or to operational costs. Because if in case, for those that don't know, you know what I mean? Just because the fight generates 48 million don't mean Wilder and Fury get to take all of that home. No, they got to split that up between a lot of people. Wilder fans don't want Dillian and Fury to fight because if Dillian wins, they won't be able to take it because Wilder couldn't beat him. I believe it's something. I believe that there's something about Dillian Whyte that a lot of these people don't like, and it's not his personality. I believe that what they're afraid of is Dillian Whyte, and I'm not saying this is what would happen. This is not a prediction, but I believe that they don't want Whyte to get that fight because they are afraid that he might do better than Wilder, and that'll make Wilder look bad. That's what I think. For everybody that thinks that Tyson Fury is invincible, they're basing all of that on the Wilder fights. Go back and watch the Chisora fight, the first one. Go back and watch that. All right? Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora have a similar style, and they have a similar demeanor, a similar attitude. Go for the gusto and throw. Go for the gusto and throw. They're not going to sit here and box with you. They're going to come after you, right? Coincidentally, Derek Chisora did make Tyson Fury struggle. He didn't drop him like Deontay Wilder. He didn't drop him. But think about the Wilder fights. And remember that outside of the rounds that Wilder knocked him down, every other round he was losing. He didn't, it wasn't a war. It's either you drop Fury or Fury's beating you up and dropping you. And it was a great fight. I'm not disparaging it. It was a great fight. It was a fun fight, honestly. I enjoyed it. But what I don't like is this attitude, and what it really is at its base is, y'all high on Fury right now because y'all saw him fight on Saturday, and now y'all think it's okay to fuck over this guy like he ain't been fucked over enough by Wilder. That's not right. That's not right. Wilder fucked him over enough. The WBC fucked him over enough. He was ranked ahead of Dominic Breazeale. He was ranked at number 1. And who did the WBC give the mandatory shot to? Dominic Breazeale. After that, they make Dillian Whyte wait and wait and wait. And Wilder out of his own mouth tells him, yo, dog, I'll have you sitting waiting for 2 years and won't give you that shot. They done played enough games with this man. And y'all whole argument is a straw man argument because Fury don't have access to Usyk. Dropping the belt, that don't give him access to Usyk. Usyk is fighting Anthony Joshua, period. That's what he's doing. Dropping the belt don't get him Usyk. All it does is allow him to skip Dillian. So what y'all really want is for him to duck Dillian. Now, I'll let you guys, I'm about to open up the panel to the chat, and you guys can tell me what you think about that. Shout out to Sly Tendencies. I appreciate that, bro. It's a fact that Wilder ducked Whyte for years. Open up the chat, the panel, and I want to get some takes. Anybody that hasn't been a part of the panel, feel free to join in the discussion. Why do you guys feel that Americans, because it's mostly Americans that are saying this, if you look at who's saying it and where they're from, it's the Americans that are saying he should skip Dillian. It's not nobody else. It's the Americans saying that. Okay, I'm going to start off with Isan. Isan,
Yo.
Why do you think that so many Americans want Fury to skip out on Whyte?
I think it's the same thing that you had just said. They just don't like Whyte people don't like Whyte because he chased Wilder for years. That's really it. And they made him look bad for skipping on him so many times.
But now that Wilder's not in the picture, and I'm going to pass it to AJ after that. I'm going to pass it to AJ now. Wilder's not in the picture anymore, I mean, at least not the immediate picture. So why do they want Fury to skip Whyte? What do you think about it, AJ?
Well, clearly, watching Whyte fight and all his fights, I think that, people have such a high on the Deontay Wilder fans. His Deontay Wilder fans or fanboys have such a high on him, and because of that, it's like they didn't like Dillian, and now it's kind of like now that Fury has beat Wilder, it's like they're transferring that same energy to Fury, like they like him, and now they don't want Whyte to get the shot either. And I just want to say, it's at this point, it's just beyond ridiculous. I mean, this man should have gotten a shot a long time ago. He really should have. I mean, I think that Dillian Whyte should have sued a long time ago. And I think the ideal situation Like, because everybody knows that Tyson Fury pretty much stole Dillian's title shot.
Pretty much,
When
yes. Pretty
yeah,
much, yes.
the ideal scenario I think that should have happened is like, okay, so Fury makes his comeback, right? He fights in 2 exhibition matches against Safiri and Pianetta, those guys. Then like the WBC should have been like, okay, Tyson, you want your title shot? Here's what you have to do: fight somebody in our rankings in the top 15, not the top 10, the top 15. And if you beat one of those guys, you get a ranking. Then if Deontay Wilder doesn't have a mandatory that's due, well, he could fight you as a voluntary. And if you still want to fight him instead, you have to convince the mandatory to step aside. Ben, that's what should have happened.
Okay, I'm gonna take it to Leo. Leo, you know what's going on. Just set the stage. Why do you think so many Americans want Tyson Fury to skip Dillian Whyte?
Okay, I think it has to do more with AJ than most of people think, because Dillian Whyte got beat by AJ long time ago, and now Dillian Whyte has been doing very well for himself. And forget the fact that he got beat by Povetkin. He got this mandatory position again, and now it's at the door of a title shot for the first time. And if Dillian Whyte can perform good enough against Fury or against Wilder, that looks AJ Anthony Joshua good, because AJ beat him long time ago.
So we got a couple of new faces. Got a new guy here, Michael McIntyre. You know the situation. I'm gonna ask you, do you feel that Fury should fight Whyte? Because it's not like he's gonna be able to get Usyk. You know, the rematch clause is activated, so he can't even get him. Should he fight Dillian Whyte, or should he drop the title? Okay, I think Michael's frozen. I'm gonna take it to slot tendencies. Slot tendencies. Same question.
Hey, what's up, Ring IQ? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Yeah, it goes back. This goes back really far, right? Like, it started with Shelly Finkel letting Wilder duck Klitschko, saying he's not ready for that yet after he beats Stavern, and then they came up with every excuse they could to delegitimize Dillian Whyte. And a lot of people, especially a lot of American fans, still think that he took steroids and stuff, even though that was completely, it was I think it was a tainted supplement, and he wound up suing that place. But that's the kind of stuff that people don't want to talk about. If Dillian Whyte gets any of these fights and wins, it completely delegitimizes the bag, and that's what it really is. But the other part of it is that Dillian Whyte, like, if you look at it from the thing that I don't understand, if he's so garbage and he's got a glass jaw and all this stuff, why don't he just fight Fury? Just prove Fury should be able to knock him out in 1 round, right? So I think people are just afraid. They want to keep the money coming in, and they don't feel like he's a big enough star in America anyway.
Okay. So let me pass it back to Michael McIntyre. Michael McIntyre, what's going on? How you doing? You know the situation. What do you think Fury should do moving forward? Should he drop the title and skip Dillian, even though it doesn't get him Usyk because Usyk's tied up? Or should he just fight the fucking guy? Yeah, I'm still not getting no audio from Michael. Okay, Box Watch, I'm gonna pass it over to you. I know what you're gonna say, but just say the shit.
What do I think they should fight?
Of course.
Of course they should fight. Come on.
I fucking knew.
Have you heard the obviously gym stories are gym stories, but have you heard the gym stories?
Well, I've heard the gym stories. That's why that's how I know. I mean, at least that's where I get my opinion from, is because of all these different and I don't have a lot of stock in gym stories. But
yeah, nor do I. But I mean, at the same time, they're there. Smoke without fire and all of that stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, your man touched on a good point. Your man there, I can't remember his name.
That
but he
was slot
touched.
tendencies. That was slot tendencies.
Was it? I don't think it was Slight Tendencies who said that.
Me?
Obviously, Joshua beat Dylan back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
and him beating any of them guys there will make AJ look good. I think that's a good point, definitely. But do you know what? I don't think the fight can happen in the UK.
Why not?
Do you remember when the last time Fury had any dealings with the BBBofC, they was like, you know what? When you try and fight in the UK again, we're not going to give you. They're not going to sanction it. They're not going to give him the license or something like that. I think it was about that trial that came back and beat him in the butt.
Not because the thing with Martin Carefoot, right? Like a lot of people still bring that up. The wild boar, the UCAD, the boxing license. And Martin Carefoot dropped all of that shit. I mean, like, you can make some inferences as to why he dropped all that shit. They gave that guy some hush money. I mean, that much is obvious. They probably gave him a few $100,000, and he decided, okay, I'm not going to keep pushing for this because it was a shakedown. If it was anything, it was a shakedown. For you to have waited that amount of time to come forward with all of this, it's an obvious shakedown.
Yeah, I hear that as well. But you know what it is? I think it's him. I think Fury had a few choice words for the BBBofC, kind of disrespected them or something, and they were like, "Right, we're not gonna license you again, regardless." Like, we'll see anyway, but I don't see it.
Look, honestly, I don't think that would. I don't think that would prevent the fight from landing. Like, in other words, if Bob is okay with it going to the UK, which he isn't, he wants it in Vegas. But if Bob were okay with it going to the UK and Fury were okay with it, it's a huge fight. Like, it's a huge. Like, you can't let the Americans. You can't let the Americans tell you what a huge fight isn't in the UK. They saying that shit because they think that this is the center of the fucking universe, and they don't got a pony in the show right now, and that's just the reality of the shit. It's right back to the way that it was when Vlad had the belts. You had a lot of resentful Americans that would shit on the whole weight class because they didn't really have nobody to believe in at the time. And that's what it was. It wasn't Americans tripping over their feet over Calvin Brock. Not even, and Chris Berg was decent, but they wasn't behind him neither. They wasn't behind him like that.
I mean, I know a casual who said that Dillian Whyte is trash because he got knocked out by Povetkin, and he had never seen Dillian Whyte fight before.
Mind you, he only lost. He was winning that first fight, and he got caught.
He was
every second of that
fight. That's
fight.
heavyweight boxing, though. That is heavyweight boxing.
Let me take it to Chris. I'm gonna take it to Chris. I know what you're gonna say, but say the shit. Should he fight the guy or drop the belt?
You want me to fucking say it? Let me say it then. He should fight him because at the end of the day, let's piggyback off of what everyone's been saying. Like, for example, what Leo said about AJ. If Dillian Whyte were to beat Deontay Wilder or beat Tyson Fury, it makes AJ look incredible because at the end of the day, we all know Dillian Whyte, for all his flaws, he may be a little chinny, is a damn good fighter, and AJ dealt with him. Ultimately, he should be getting these title shots because outside of the Povetkin blip and the AJ loss, this man was on a winning streak and was beating former world champions, highly ranked contenders. He fought all comers and beat them. So ultimately, he should be getting his title shot. There can be some people saying, "Oh, he should have fought Anthony Joshua," and that's the reason why Anthony Joshua got his first loss. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, this man has been disrespected by the WBC. Deontay Wilder blatantly ducked him, and at the end of the day, this man has done everything that he was supposed to do to get to where he needed to get to. Give this man his shot now. Why is it so hard?
Like, how does
the WBC giving this order about 30 days to sort out a unit undisputed? That's a farce. The WBC are seriously kicking.
This is
not.
Let me chime in on that. Let me chime in on that because I touched on it in a video, and I'm actually not against it. You see, I think the reason the WBC put in that 30-day bullshit, it's not because they expect to get Usyk in the ring. It's not because of that. They want wiggle room. So if Valine beats Whyte, they don't have to order the fight. You see, if they do it now and they say, okay, you have to fight the winner, Well, what if the winner's Otto Valine? We're gonna order a rematch? Nah, we don't
Okay,
want
okay,
that.
that makes
Why
sense.
not?
Okay,
Why
makes total
why
sense.
not?
That makes sense.
Come on,
Why,
bro. Like you really want to see a part 2?
think about it
Nah.
like this: if it wasn't for Tyson Fury being Tyson Fury, he would have got stopped. That could have been his first loss.
That is
What's
a
not
fair
to see
point.
about that?
If Otto
That
Wallin
is,
had
But
had
I
that,
think,
if Otto Wallin had had that cut instead of Fury, they'd have stopped that fight.
that's true.
of
And I'm
course.
not.
So
And that,
I think
that's true. No, that is true. Keep going. Keep going.
at the end of the day, why stop someone from getting their title shot? Like if Otto Wallin beats Dylan White, which is a possibility, why do the same thing to Otto Wallin that's happening to Dylan White? I don't care.
I
I
agree.
don't care
I
about
agree.
that. That would
I
be
agree.
whoever wins.
I agree. I have to agree. Like morally and altruistically, right? Yeah, I have to agree that like if he
Because we
wins,
will be hypocrites. We will be hypocrites if we think, oh, Otto Wallin shouldn't get that title shot. He shouldn't. Is what it is. I'll be a hypocrite on that. We don't want you here, but like at the end of the day, you would have to, give him
all
his
right.
Does
shot because he
Dillian
worked
White
to
still
get
have a
there.
lawsuit against the WBC? Is it still pending, or did he drop it?
First, let me read the super chat and let's get into the lawsuit. I don't believe the BBOC will say no to sanctioning Fury versus White. Think of how much revenue it would generate if they sell out Wembley for that fight. And I agree. It's for that reason that I think if all the aforementioned parties involved wanted to do that fight in the UK, that fight happens in the UK. Drew, you know the situation, and you've seen the back and forth between Dougie Fisher and Ishe Smith. I know you got a lot to say about this. Just give me your initial impression. Why do you think they have this demeanor towards what is an otherwise very simple situation?
We've gone back and forth about it on the channel, Jules. It's xenophobic Americans bitter that there's big fights outside of America. That's a huge fight in London. Huge.
It
That's
is.
a 8-figure payday for both guys.
It is.
That's 50,000 people in a stadium at minimum.
No,
Not to mention the promotion.
80,000. That's
I'm saying
definitely
that
80,000.
I'm being conservative. That's a 50,000. That packs the Tottenham where I was at, and it's a mandatory fight.
Yeah, it's a simple
Is
situation.
that still White Hart Lane? Is that still White Hart Lane? In to Tottenham Stadium or no?
Yeah, it's still White Hart Lane.
Yeah, that's the same White Hart Lane that Michael Watson lost to Eubank in, right?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah.
Yep, same
and they're
place.
and to see Fisher and Smith advocating that Tyson just sits on his ass, that's going to give us a undisputed fight where he's sloppy, he's not in good shape, and he's not sharp.
You saw the tweets. I put the tweets on the screen, and Dougie, like I understand Ishe a little bit because he's talking from the perspective of paying sanctioning fee, even though the point that he's making is not a salient point because dropping the belt won't get you Usyk. Like it won't. If you drop the belt, you're not going to get Usyk after that. Usyk still has to fight Joshua, and all you're going to do is sit around waiting. That's it. Dropping the belt don't get you to him faster. So I don't really understand that. But Dougie's shit is the shit that really got me there. He said they'll scream bloody murder about how supposedly corrupt the sanctioning bodies are, but at the same time, they want everybody to play by the sanctioning body's rules. If Dillian doesn't get his shot, that's corruption. Him getting his shot is not corruption. That would actually be justice because it'd be about fucking time. So I didn't understand.
Julius,
that.
can I interject? Can I interject?
Good.
If Dillian White gets his shot, that is what the WBC is supposed to do. It's not justice. They're doing their job. They have not been doing their job. It's been
It's a natural
gross
order.
impropriety on their end. Yes. And if I was Dillian White, I would have sued them. I would have sued them for a long time ago because ultimately you've cost me a lot of time. A lot of time in the ring fighting for guys that were dangerous for less money when I could potentially been a champion because I already have championship pedigree by me beating Joseph Parker and beating guys that fought for world titles already. I've been beating these guys consistently. And people want to talk about the Povetkin fight. People fail to realize I rematched him and got back in position after beating him up.
No.
COVID, no COVID.
Let me champ that portion of the conversation, if you will. Nobody's saying that. Let me champ that portion of the conversation, all right? Now, I don't expect every boxer to know everything about every other boxer, but I do expect the pundits to do that because that's what they're paid to do, all right? Now, nobody's saying nothing. I expect the pundits to do that, to know that, to be privy to that information because that is what they're paid to do. And for them to be so blasé about a fighter like Povetkin, but be so high on Ortiz, who's from the same era as Povetkin, and fought absolutely no one in the previous era.
I was
And
in the
all-
channel. Sorry to cut you off. I was in the channel, and they called this dude Luis Ortiz a fucking boogeyman. Mind you, this guy turned down the fucking. He turned down the fight to fight fucking.
Let me champ this shit. Let me champ
Oh
this
my
shit.
god, bro!
Let me champ this shit. Dillian Whyte, I don't care if he was 40 because how fucking old was Ortiz when Wilder fought him for the second time, right? I'm not hearing none of that age shit because Povetkin and Ortiz are the same age. What's the difference? Povetkin is a gold medalist. Povetkin has been fighting the somebodies of the previous era and this era. Luis Ortiz's claim to fame is losing to Wilder. Outside of losing to Wilder, what the fuck makes him so special?
Brian
I think
Jennings.
what people okay, so there's these people, a lot of Wilder fans, LDBC people. Up until that point, the only person that really threatened Wilder in a fight was when he fought against Stavern the first time. So when they saw somebody like a good boxer, Luis Ortiz, but not a boogeyman by any stretch. He hadn't fought anybody up until that point. So when they saw that, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's incredible. He's the boogeyman. Everybody's avoiding him." And it's just like, well, look, man, Wilder's style is to throw a right hand. It's not.
All that only started because Wilder didn't want to fight him at first.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Isan.
exactly.
Oh my God. Oh my.
That's the only reason he was
and it
considered a
goes- I brought up
boogeyman
that
for
point,
any
like,
sort of time.
How was
only
Fury?
guy-
How
the
was
only
Fury the
guy-
man? How was
Go
Fury?
ahead.
How was Fury the man when his best win is against a dude whose best win is against a 75-year-old Cuban not on PEDs anymore? That's
Who
not a
was on-
champion.
Yeah.
Who was on the New York State Athletic
Ortiz has
Commission?
never been a champion.
The New York State Athletic Commission was about to not let him fight because his fucking blood pressure was too
Blood
high.
pressure, yeah.
So and they're making jokes about 40-year-old Povetkin and 40-year-old this. Like, yo, dog, your man is literally the dude that you talking up that Wilder beat. He was literally on high blood pressure medication, and they were about to not let him fight because his blood pressure was too high. He's an old
Tyson
motherfucking
Fury
man.
didn't give Vladimir Klitschko his rematch. And everybody talked about, Fury beat Klitschko. And when Klitschko wanted that smoke again, Fury wanted to vacate the title, say, I saw the devil in
tested
Germany.
positive
I
for
saw all
cocaine.
this shit.
PEDs, that was a real
He
All that
tested
other
positive
bullshit.
for cocaine.
if we're being non-biased, if we just go off total resumes of heavyweight guys in totality, Usyk and AJ are the only ones with Hall of Fame potential credentials.
That's true.
Yep.
And
That's true.
if you the
Hall
whole
of Fame
body
for
of work,
Usyk would be cruiserweight, but he doesn't
but I'm
have
just
a
saying
Hall
that
of Fame.
in general, the whole
resume
body
in
of
heavyweight.
work.
No, the whole package, because you got to think
Oh, yeah,
about
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Oh,
That he
yeah,
moved
yeah,
up
yeah.
to heavyweight and he got the belts. Think about it this way, right? And I hate, and it's only, I swear to God, it's only the Americans that do this. They disregard approximately 75% of the heavyweight division to live inside this little fucking bubble where it's just Wilder, Fury, and Ortiz, because that's all they talk about. They don't, like, if you notice, they don't know nothing else about the whole weight class, even though it's a whole thing of fighters from all over the world. And Povetkin, the reason I bring up Povetkin is, look, Luis Ortiz got popped for banned substances 2 times. Povetkin got popped for banned substances 2 times. So don't bring me the Peds shit, because if his Peds don't bother you, his Peds shouldn't bother you. What's the difference?
Exactly.
Was it Wilder saying like,
Yeah.
I don't? He was dissing Ortiz for failing Peds?
In the beginning, he
fight?
was.
What about
Yeah,
the
in the beginning, he
therapeutic
was.
exemptions that Wilder gets after all these surgeries? Shannon Briggs talked about it and got like an injunction sent to him for even mentioning it.
That was in 2015. Around there, I remember.
And they also, to be fair, insinuated that Joshua was on TUAs, but they couldn't, figure that out.
It wasn't just hot air though, because if if I accuse somebody of something, like let's say I accuse you of like running over my cat or something, if I got proof of doing it, that's one. If I don't have any proof, that's one thing. But if I send a lawyer to shut you up, that's entirely that doesn't look good for the person that sent the lawyer.
Listen.
Not at all. Not at all, bro.
Let me champ this. Let me champ the shit. Sly, the way I feel, I don't even pay attention to that shit anymore. You want to know why? Because I feel like all these guys fuck around is doing something, right? So I don't like. I used to pay more attention to it, and I'm just like, look, man, it is what it is, right? My thing is this: do not bring up Povetkin's meldonium if you don't want to talk about Ortiz's nandrolone.
Absolutely.
Do not bring
Let's
up.
remember something too. Boxing does not. It's insane, but boxing does not have any kind of athletic commission. All they have are these sanctioning bodies that you can basically buy your way onto.
Well, no. See, this is the thing. They have commissions. They have commissions, state to state. But when you mean like regular, universal, regulation, they don't have that. You know, they don't have like an NFL, an MLB, an NBA. You know, they don't have that. It's not organized in that way. But my thing is, you often hear it said, "Oh, Povetkin tested positive for meldonium," and Wilder still fought Ortiz, who tested positive for nandrolone and a masking agent. So let's not bring up Peds as a reason not to fight someone. If you were okay,
Yo, can I bring up a point?
Hold on. If you were okay fighting Ortiz, who tested positive for Peds 2 times, Povetkin shouldn't bother you. And there's no reason. Wilder has been around since 2008. Fury has been around since 2008. Ortiz has been around since 2010, and y'all just didn't bump into shit looking at it, you know, except for Fury. I'll say Fury because he actually went after Vlad. Wilder didn't want to know, and Ortiz fucked it up for himself after the Coyote fight because that's when he got popped. But it's like you got these guys that the fans now look at Wilder as being a part of this era when in reality he's part of the old era. He's a part of he's literally a part of the Klitschko era. When he debuted as a professional, both the Klitschko brothers was reigning world champions. That's the era that he's a part of. But because he didn't fight shit for 7 years, they act like he debuted in 2015. My man, this dude been here since 2008. Him and Fury.
He beat Arlie Harrison.
I wanted to go back to that point, Jules.
That doesn't help that much.
Jules, just back to like the hypocrisy of Dougie Fisher talking about lineal belts and Golden Boy owns them, and Andre Ward and Ishe advocating fighters to not be active defending reigning world champions where you fight more than once every 18, 20 months. It's just it's indicative of how boxing is going to get worse in America before it gets better.
Of course, because America wants to play favorites and sit on a high horse while they do it.
It's funny how Ward is advising.
There's no American. They're jealous. There's no American fighter that could fight a no-name mandatory and get paid 8 figures like Canelo.
But they're not
like
even going to
Joshua.
pay them. They're not going to even pay for American-born based fighter. When's the last time they paid for American-based fighter that wasn't Mike Tyson? Let's keep it a buck. We haven't been buying pay-per-views and supporting our fighters for a long time.
Why is Dougie Fisher a part of the problem? I'll tell you why. He is diminishing the value of alphabet titles, thereby diminishing the value of undisputed. Thus, the reign of an undisputed champion, like a Crawford, gets sneezed at. Like it don't matter that he unified the division. You wonder why we could have an excellent fighter like Crawford and he don't get the respect that he should get. It's because of pundits. And I'm look, I don't got nothing against Dougie, but I gotta call a spade a spade. When you treat it like that, to where it only matters when you want it to matter. Belts only matter if it's Loma. Belts only matter if it's Gennady Golovkin, even though he only beat one fucking world champion. He only beat one. He didn't beat them other belt. They gave him them belts, right? For Crawford, who beat a champion for every.
He didn't have the big belt at all. He didn't even have the big belt. Actually,
they put him.
Really, Stern had the big belt.
I mean,
They do
Crawford is
this
already
to these
aware
guys
of
though because they put asses in seats. It's the Floyd Mayweather champion emeritus stuff
All
because
right,
they know that it sells.
but let's say this, Sly one. Let's say this. Look. The belts matter when it's Golovkin. The belts matter when it's Vasil. Oh my God, he only has so many fights and he's fighting in title fights, right? But
Yeah.
Jermel Charlo, and I'm not trying to say that Golovkin or Loma is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be consistent. The reason you talk about Loma and Golovkin is because they were unified champions and Loma was a multi-weight champion. But if I tell you, well, Jermel, he got 3 belts and Ring Magazine, and he's lineal. He beat more world champions than Golovkin, right? When you had Golovkin on your pound for pound list, but you don't give him the shine. And when you don't give him the shine, he don't grow. He don't get marquee value. Motherfuckers don't know him. And it just goes on like that. And the boxing scene in America dwindles because the sport is not treated properly. It's not covered properly. The fighters aren't protected properly. And you want to tell the Brits about what a big fight to them is. You need to mind your business.
You have to remember, too, that in America, we're one of the only countries in the world that has a sport where we call it the World Series, but the only people that can play in it are the people in the United States. You gotta look at it. There's a couple other things that kind of logistically hurt boxing too, like HBO getting rid of their boxing contract hurts. I think that they treated
that hurt
a
me.
lot.
That really hurt me when that shit.
It was terrible. I mean, I grew up on that. My grandpa, like generations of my family, when we lost that, it was unbelievable. But that's the thing; they don't have as much faith in it anymore. That's why they pulled it away.
I'll say this much: punditry in America has taken a nosedive, and I do believe that it affects the sport in a very adverse way because if you have a world champion, not just a world champion, but a unified champion or even an undisputed champion, they're supposed to be revered. But when you sneeze, like I understand that the sanctioning bodies have all their corruption. I get that. But these guys literally pick and choose when they want the belts to matter. If it's Loma, the belts matter. If it's Gennady, the belts matter. But if it's this not a belt, that shit don't matter. Sanctioning bodies don't matter. All right, then don't talk about belts no more then. I don't want to hear you talk about championship fights or how that matters, or how title defenses matter, because when I asked you about this guy, and I went back and forth with Dougie online about this shit on Twitter, that like, I'm not saying that Jermel is top 5, but he should at least be in the lower tier because he's a unified, lineal junior middleweight champion. You got Loma
Why
on there.
should he not be top 5 too?
Doesn't he have the ring belt? He's got the ring belt, right?
Not top 5 because the top 5, and I like it, believe it or not. I like that we are where we are. The top 5 is some bad motherfuckers. All of them. Bad. That look.
It's pretty much universally agreed was top 5.
Listen, you got Canelo, you got Usyk, you got Crawford, you got Inui. You know what I mean? Like these is top.
Yeah,
these
you're
top
right,
4.
You're right.
So it's like Yoka. You know what I mean?
Julius,
go ahead.
I have a question. In this case, you know my thoughts about the WBC and Wilder, how they protecting him, and my idea that the PBC is paying under the table to the WBC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think it might be the case, in this case in particular, with Dougie Fisher, that he is also being paid under the table?
Leo, can I answer that?
Not to protect the PBC, is to get shit on Matchroom.
I will say. Hold on. I will say. It's possible. I wouldn't rule it out because everybody's got a price. But I feel like Drew, and I think that with Drew, his point is it's American bias and American xenophobia, it's so to speak. So it's like if it's not in America or it has to favor Americans, it that's how it feels. You know what I mean? That's how it feels. That how could I put this? Because they do this for Loma. They do this for Gennady. They're not Americans. But the American fighters, they overlook them. I feel like even the pundits here feel entitled. That's kind of what I'm getting at. They're like, yo, dog, why don't you keep the same energy for Jermell that you had for Gennady? Because he's holding the same number of alphabet titles that Gennady was holding, but he actually earned his Ring Magazine title. Gennady didn't. You guys just gave him the shit.
Okay,
Right?
Julius, but how
And
this fits in this
to add to that,
situation? Because
Jules.
Fury,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, but how this fits in this situation? Because Fury, Usyk, and Whyte, they are not American.
I think it's because what they want. All right, let me compartmentalize this. Usyk is not a matchroom fighter.
Yeah.
You understand?
Okay.
They want that fight in America. Now, if let's say, see, this is I didn't get to say this, and I want to say this. Another part of the reason that I think they don't want Fury to fight Whyte is because they don't want Eddie to be involved. I'll add to that by saying that fight don't happen if Eddie Hearn is involved, because Bob and the people here, they want to freeze him out. Dillian can get the fight. If he can get the fight, he's got to fly solo. Eddie can't be involved. You can't try to get it on DAZN. Forget it. It won't happen. Bob won't let it.
Could he?
No, he can't. I mean, seriously, he can't.
I mean, Dillian's a free agent, isn't he?
Dillian's a free agent, but Tyson Fury isn't. He still owes
He's
top
Bob
rank.
Arum, yeah.
He still owes top rank a fight. And in the UK, he's a Frank Warren fighter. So Eddie, and they don't want him to be involved, right? The way that matters here is because Usyk is not under contract with, well, he kind of is, so to speak, because of the fucking rematch clause. But he's not an according to Hoyle matchroom fighter, you know? So if you wanted to do the fight with Fury, you know it's not going to be a fucking matchroom promotion. It's going to be a top-ranked promotion, and they'll try to do it in Vegas. You know, that's what they want. They want to bring it here. What I see is that there's a lot of people out there, for whatever reason, and I do think it's strange, they got this fucking hate relationship with Eddie Hearn, and what I see is they have this demeanor towards him and towards fighters that are associated with him. You know, I didn't see Dougie saying that Joshua should drop the WBO and skip out on Usyk. I didn't see him saying that. I don't know if he said it. I'm not going to judge him. But I didn't see him saying that. I didn't see Ishe saying that. You know, I didn't see a lot of
energy.
They don't. Nobody does. I didn't imagine. Imagine if last year, Joshua drops the IBF to skip out on Pulev. They fucking crucify him. They crucify him.
Damn right.
But you could tell Fury to do that, though, right? Fury could drop the WBC so he don't have to fight a guy that Joshua knocked out. Make it make sense.
I mean, because like the other day, I'm reading an article from Daily Mail saying that like they're comparing Tyson Fury to Muhammad Ali, and I'm like, what the hell? And I'm serious. That's what they said, and it's like, wait a minute, what the hell does it prove beating the guy that can't box 2 times?
Bro, look,
and Klitschko and all that. Yeah, and Klitschko and all that kind of stuff. I mean, like, what? It proves that what? This is the level of punditry. You were saying this is the level of punditry.
He wasn't number 4 last year, bro. So you wasn't even number 4 last year, right? You wasn't. So you beat the same dude this year that you beat last year, and that gets you number 4, pound for pound.
It goes back, Jules, to the level.
No. He's like Muhammad Ali. He's like Muhammad Ali.
Did any of these American pundits go cover AJ versus Usyk? I don't think so.
No.
There's foreign pundits from all these other countries have more respect for the game as a whole, and even more respect for American fighters than the American scene has for all the foreign scene.
I feel that they don't think much of Anthony Joshua, and that's okay. But it's not your job to think much of him. It's your job.
I don't think they don't think much of Anthony Joshua. I think they're jealous of him, and I think they just don't like that Eddie Hearn. He's a young face, brash. He's brash. He gets everything done. Like, it goes back to, the popularity thing. He's tall. He's this. He's that. These guys aren't. The haters. Every time someone brings up Anthony Joshua, and their girls like him.
The girls love AJ. Yeah. AJ got blue chip endorsements.
Real
AJ's
talk.
What kind of
AJ's
Yeah.
a bona
schoolyard
fide, or AJ's
baby
a
type
bona
of
fide
mentality
star.
is that,
But
though,
wait a
man?
minute.
Come on.
Look,
But the
I'm not
thing
even.
is, you're
No,
right
wait,
though. You're
wait.
right though. It's a baby mentality, but you're right.
Let me
It is what
let me
it
say
is.
this because I don't want to. I don't even want to. I don't want to limit the spectrum of the conversation to just the resentment that they may have towards Anthony Joshua and Matchroom. It's also a holier than thou attitude. If let me pull up the tweet so that we can see it again. Right. First, let me read this super chat. Willie Lynch, I appreciate that. Let me read this. You once pointed out that Larry Holmes defended his belt 4 times in a year against 3. Yep, that's right. 3 unbeaten contenders and 1 journeyman. Now we are lucky to get a fight a year. Ward didn't have that energy when Wilder and AJ held the belts 100%. Now you look at this tweet from Dougie Fisher, right? About the sanctioning bodies, and it doesn't even make sense. It's almost like a straw man argument. Like, you're saying that Fury fighting Whyte is corruption? Is that what you're saying? That if he actually gets his title shot, that's corruption? Or is it that you're now let me champ the shit? Or is it that Dougie picks and chooses when he wants to endorse the alphabets? If it's Gennady with all his belts, or if it's Loma with his belts, or Cecilia Breakers, who I love as well, when she had all the belts, you okay saying, oh yeah, undisputed, this is dope. But when it's somebody else, oh, you don't give a fuck. If it's somebody else's title shot, you don't give a fuck. Need I remind you that if not for the mandatory process, guys like Spence would have never got a title shot. Brooke didn't want to fight him. He had to.
And now they're kicking the ladder away from everybody else that's climbing up it.
Exactly.
They get it, and then they kick the ladder away. Like you talked about Charlo earlier. Well, his twin brother is doing exactly what Wilder did for freaking 5 or 6 years. He's cherry picking, and he's keeping one belt. I mean, it's a cash grab.
Jules, do you think like the pundits, like the promoters here and the fighters, see the market dwindling, and they're just clinging to some old glory that's never going to come back? And Eddie Hearn is the new kid on the block. He can get the Saudi money. He can create spectacles.
They cut off their nose to spite their
face.
That's the kind of people that they are. They'll cut off their nose to spite their face, because you basically saying that Whyte shouldn't get a shot, even though the Brits themselves is telling you, the Brits who this fight would be geared towards, it's worth a lot of money. It's a big fight. It's not like you can fight Usyk anyway. And this is your responsibility, which is the altruistic part, the unselfishness of it all, right? That Joshua is has been inundated, I should say, with mandatories, right? They never leave him alone, the alphabets. They never leave him alone. Fury has 1. And the 1 mandatory he has, y'all don't fight him. Wait a minute. That ain't right. Joshua had to fucking fight Povetkin. He had to fight Pulev. He had to fight Takam. He had to fight Usyk, right? But when
fair, in Fury's case, to be fair, the second that he beat Klitschko, all of the sanctioning, well, not all of them, but especially the IBF, they stripped him like, I think, 7 days after he won the title.
Listen, I don't disagree. No, wait. No. I'm going to tell you what. Listen, I don't disagree with you, but they didn't do anything to him, right? They didn't do anything to him that they didn't do to Jermaine Taylor. When Jermaine Taylor...
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people don't know, too, that one fight he did was not undisputed. That was one of the last ones. It was for 3 of the belts. Go ahead, sorry.
And they've been that way. They did it to Gennady in recent memory, that they was like, hey bro, you gotta fucking fight Derevyanchenko after this. Remember, ahead of the Canelo rematch. It's like, hey, wait a minute. The only reason we let you fight Vanez is because you said you would fight Derevyanchenko immediately after. He doesn't fight him. He drops the belt. He goes for Canelo, and the rest is history. He had to drop the belt. So they've been that way. Could
I interject to pose a quick question right quick? Why is Crawford versus Porter happening?
Because of the sanctioning bodies.
They mandated it, right? Mandatory. Yeah, that's why it's happening, because the fight was mandated. Something that the WBC should be doing.
Well, I mean,
Something that everybody should be doing.
no. This is you. I'm so glad you raised that point because this highlights the hypocrisy that if I ask them, "Hey, are you happy that Crawford is fighting Porter?" Yeah. Do you know why we're getting that fight? Why? Because of the process that you telling Tyson Fury to skip. The only
Boom.
Why did
reason.
AJ fight Usyk?
Boom.
Boom.
Hello.
Yeah.
Do you think
Look,
anybody
let's
would
be
want
real
to
too.
fight
Let's be
him?
real about this. The WBC, this isn't a conspiracy either. The WBC is by far one of the most corrupt sanctioning bodies on the planet. Look at what they did for Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Martinez. I mean, look at that. Look at how they made Wilder's mandatory. Like they would literally change mandatories at the last minute for him. Look
Yes,
how
they
they
would.
made Tyson Fury after 2 fights against people that weren't even ranked. They gave him a title shot.
Look what they do
I mean,
for Canelo.
you
No,
look what they do for
at what they did for
Canelo.
look at what they did for Stavern. All right, Stavern.
Yeah, Stavern.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Stavern was supposed to. The Stavern's story is the funniest shit because really they ordered a final eliminator after Povetkin popped for meldonium, and he actually got the case thrown out on a technicality, right? So they offer him a final eliminator with Stavern. He pops again for Osterin, right?
Yeah.
So he pops again. So he's suspended. Fucking Stavern gets the title shot, but Stavern hasn't fought in 2 years the night of the fight. Like, yo, dog, you giving a title shot to a dude, he ain't even fought. Why didn't you just say, hey, let's order an eliminator between Stavern and Dillian Whyte, and the winner is the mandatory? Nah, you don't do
Oh, no,
that.
that was too easy. That was way too easy.
Julius,
They can't have a
my
UK
my
guy having
view,
that title.
my view this a case of preventment. How is this
Say-
called?
say it again.
Arrepentimiento.
Arrepentimiento, que se están arrepintiendo. They're repenting.
Yeah, I mean the pundits. Like, just say it before. You've been saying it for a long time. The heavyweight division is the most dangerous division in ever
Yeah.
because people could get beat in any time, and maybe these guys, Fisher and Joshua-Smith, they thought in their hearts, Wilder and AG, it's gonna happen eventually. Yeah, because the heavyweight division is so weak, so they're gonna keep defending their titles till their fate, right? AJ gets beat twice. Wilder gets beat twice by Tyson Fury. So now the reality is this: these guys, these invincible guys, can lose, and the momentum of the fight can shift. And there is a possibility that Whyte can beat Tyson Fury.
And that's what they're afraid of, and that's what they don't want
Yeah,
to say.
and
That's what they
that's
don't
what
want
it
to
really
say.
is.
By the
yeah,
way,
and
The
these
by the way,
guys,
WBC wants to keep
by the
that
way,
title
Rick,
in America because they
by the way,
can
Rick,
make more money off it. They feel.
by the way, can I pose a question to you, real
Go
quick?
ahead.
Do you think that if Dylan White beats Otto Wallen, do you think Tyson Fury is going to fight him next?
I see. I want to hold out on making a prediction like that because I don't
You-
want to. I don't want to vilify Tyson Fury. You feel me? But if
Yep.
you want what I feel in my chest, franchise,
Yep.
easy.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Yep. I'm getting the
You have to put
shenanigans.
yo, you have to
Shenanigans.
put on that
No.
too.
I hope
You
not.
So
gotta
how
put
does
that
he
on
Be
your
deserve?
real.
Let's say
Be
the franchise.
real.
Hold
Be
on, hold on.
real. Oh,
Let's say
let
the
me finish
franchise
this.
is a thing. How
Oh,
does he actually deserve it? How would the WBC
Yo, he
bro.
hasn't been
All
good
right.
actually
All
either,
right. All
my
right.
boy.
say he deserves
Let
that?
me
How?
champ now. Let me champ this shit. For those of you that are not aware, Juan Francisco Estrada was franchised after the Chocolatito fight.
Oh my
Sore.
God.
Yes, so like you think they give a fuck? Look at what they did with Loma. Loma wasn't even WBC champion before the Luke Campbell fight. Soon as he got the goddamn belt, what they do after that? They franchised him.
Yeah,
And
you're
you
right.
think
They don't justify it. They just do what they want to
they
They
freaking
what
get
they
want.
want
double
to
fees
do?
out of a guy that
They
way.
shit
Because
it up as they
champions
go
pay
along,
more
man.
for fees than regular fighters do.
So you think about that. Now, Fury has one fight left on Top Rank, right? Bob is saying that, yeah, we'll do the fight. We'll do the fight. He's saying that, right? But be real. I'm just asking y'all what y'all think. You don't have to get married to the shit, you know what I mean? But think about it. Does Bob want that to be his last fight on the Top Rank?
Nope.
No, he's trying to get money. He's trying to get paid.
Nope.
I
He
think
barely
yes.
broke even. He barely broke even. So
Yo, at the end of the day, that's probably, other than outside the AJ fight, that's probably the biggest money fight that Fury can have right now.
Now listen. Everybody get quiet. Everybody get quiet. This is what I think. Bob knows that, right? Bob knows the Brits will fly over from the United Kingdom to Vegas to see that fight. So what Bob wants to see is who wins, Joshua or Usyk. If Joshua wins, we shoot for undisputed. If Usyk wins, we fight Dillian Whyte. Because the Dillian Whyte fight is a bigger money fight than the Usyk fight, even though the Usyk fight is more relevant. And that is
But they
what I
only got
believe.
30 days, Jules. They only got 30 days. What are they going to do? They've only got 30 days. That fight with AJ and... Oh, don't. All right, look. All right, let's watch this. Listen, how does the franchise title benefit a heavyweight? If
It
you
doesn't.
give if a
He
heavyweight
can skip
and his
mandatories.
team,
That's it.
hold on, watch
That's
this, watch
how.
this,
Mandatories.
watch this, Mark, watch this. If a heavyweight, yeah, and his team petition, because that's the only way it's supposed to be able to get the franchise, right? It's petition for it.
Yeah, you gotta
So
ask
if
for it.
a heavyweight, yeah, and his team petitions for a franchise title, my friend, that's a friggin' duck from whoever you're supposed to be fighting next. That's a duck.
Of course it's a fucking duck.
Of course,
You
there's
gotta
no
put the fucking
justifying
duck.
that.
Of course it's a
There's
duck.
no justifying it. No
But
heavyweight
yo,
can
nowhere to
petition for a franchise belt. If Frank Warren advises his fighter to go and petition for a franchise belt, and that fighter takes that advice, they're ducking like flipping quack, my friend.
Listen. I said this already. It's an according to Hoyle duck. Why? Because dropping that title does not get you Joshua, and it doesn't get you Usyk. It's done. The rematch clause has been exercised, okay? You don't get them in the spring. The only thing that dropping the title would do is get Dillian Whyte off your back. And if you do that, yeah, that's a duck. Quack, fucking quack. That's a duck.
Yeah, but then who are you gonna fight? Because
Caballero.
AJ, hold on, what's this? AJ and Usyk will only fight for undisputed. That's all they want to know. They're on the legacy thing. So how is that helping Fury in any way, shape, or form at this point? There's no way around it, bro. No way.
Okay,
You have to either fight Dylan, yeah,
Tyson
or be
Fury.
called a
No.
duck and go and fight Cabby.
Let me paint a picture for you.
Caballero. Go and fight Caballero.
Let me paint a picture for you, all right? Tyson Fury has been running around here with a title that nobody can see and nobody can hold for the last 2-3 years and talking it into relevance. Now, I know that lineal status is significant to hardcore boxing nerds like us, right? But in the greater scheme of things, he's literally been going on ESPN, the lineal heavyweight champion. You know, he didn't even have the ring.
The man who beat the man ever since John O'Sullivan.
Right?
The man who beat the man.
Right? But they have
He's the man who beat the man who didn't beat the man.
So you think that with a franchise that actually, you know,
He beat the man.
they give you like a belt that you can hold. Teofimo has one. It has a birth certificate, like a Cabbage Patch doll. He even showed it on Instagram, the birth certificate of the belt. The Zodiac, the social security number, everything. He showed that shit. And you think that they won't opt for that? What I believe, and I don't even like putting it out there because it's too soon, but I'm thinking, if I'm Bob, look, nobody gives a fuck about Usyk. Like, I'm sorry, but nobody cares, all right? Not in America. Maybe in Europe, but not in America, all right? For my guy, I want the biggest money fight. The biggest money fight is if AJ wins. If he don't win, the second biggest money fight is not Usyk. It's Whyte. So we got to see this through. And the only way we get enough time to see this through is if we franchise. If we franchise, we got all the fucking time in the world.
Listen,
But we
no,
still
no,
get
can't, you
undisputed
can't.
eventually anyway.
You can't have a franchise. You can't go and get a franchise as a heavyweight. You just can't. Listen, if he goes, one of the plus points of having a franchise is that
They've
you can
already
go to any
offered
division.
it before.
They
They
offer.
offered the franchise
Can I interject? Can I interject
So
something
the
else?
WBC
I'll
are
tell you
offering
something,
it now. It's
I'm
being
telling you
offered
so-
now.
I'm
So
telling
it's
you.
I don't know how anybody
How
ever
also
is
projected
surprised
it,
by
dude.
that.
How
though.
many times
This is
are
what
they
the
gonna
WBC always
move
does.
the goalpost?
Exactly.
This WBC bogus, bro. What is
listen,
going
Wait, hold
on?
on, hold
Can I
on, hold on.
interject?
How many times are the WBC going to move the goalpost? Their
Exactly.
entire
Bring a
rule
whole
book is moving goalposts, mate.
Yeah,
It
I
literally
mean, they
turns. The
They
whole
don't
rule book
have a rule
literally
book. The
Bro,
rule
says
book
we
doesn't
decide
And you
at
exist.
know
any
what?
point what we want
I
to do.
actually,
listen,
yeah, and I remember
listen.
them offering it now. I remember that
When
now.
franchise first came
My
out,
days, I can't believe.
this is how you know they write their own rules whenever they feel like it. When they first made the inaugural franchise title, they said that the title was non-transferable. You understand that you could
Yep.
beat the motherfucker and still don't get it. Now they seen that people had read the rules and like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense. How is it a real title if you can't
And
win
yet,
it?
Oh, yep,
and
yeah,
yet,
but before the
and yet on the
before the
fight
Loma
with
and Lopez
Loma,
fight,
with
but before the
Loma,
Loma Lopez fight, yeah, they
And
said,
then
oh,
and
you can win
they
it now.
did the switcheroo.
exactly.
Yeah,
They
And
did the
they
little
no,
okey doke.
But
yeah, like
Lopez, to be
win it
fair
now.
though, answer me this if somebody if you can. The reason that Loma did that though is because he wanted to fight Lopez instead of fighting his WBC mandatory though, right?
No, I'll tell you.
He
I'll
didn't
tell
want
you
to
what
fight
happened.
Devin Haney.
Nah, I'll tell
Uh,
you that.
but I thought Devin
Let
Haney.
me do this.
Go ahead.
Let me
Yeah,
do
go
this.
ahead.
Let me do this. Okay, it's not about Loma and it's not about Devin. It's about Bob and Eddie. Bob didn't want Eddie to use Devin, who was the mandatory, to win a purse bid because what Eddie wanted, and he tried it before with Anthony Crolla. Bob ended up overpaying Anthony Crolla so that the fight would happen on ESPN. Bob
And
knew.
now,
Let me champ the shit.
oh,
Bob knew Eddie's going to try to push for a purse bid with Devin to get Loma to fight on the zone. The way I can stop that from happening is if I franchise Loma because franchise champions don't have mandatories. It's not about Loma being scared of Devin. It's not about Devin being scared of Loma and being full of shit. It's not about them. It's about their promoters. That's all it was about.
yeah.
Okay.
And now, look at things right now. Fury's mandatory is another Eddie Hearn guy, Dillian White.
Fucking Mark.
Yeah.
Allow
Fucking
me,
Mark.
Mark.
It's the same
Allow me.
situation.
Allow
Fucking
me. I
Mark.
can't
I've been
have a
saying
heavyweight
he's taking franchise
petition.
for a month, dude. If he wins this fight, he'll take
Allow me. I've
mandatory.
been hearing you. I've been hearing you, you know, Mark. I've been
Fucking
hearing you.
Mark.
And I'm like, please no.
Yep.
No, no, no.
I was
No
thinking that shit
heavyweight.
before too.
Once this franchise come out, yeah, I was like, there's no way a heavyweight can have the franchise. There's just no way. If you
No.
have a heavyweight petitioning for the franchise, but now obviously
What
they're
about
getting
champion
offered the thing. Oh my
Emeritus?
days.
First,
What
let me
about
read the super.
champion
Wait.
Emeritus?
Let me read the super chats first. Will Canelo fight to have Hearn co-promote future PBC top rank fights? That's another thing I'm very interested to see play out. I'll answer that question very quickly. There's a chance that Canelo Alvarez will fight Jermall Charlo if he beats Caleb Plant, and Eddie Hearn will not co-promote. What Eddie Hearn will do is business with Canelo outside of his own fights because they're trying to develop some things in Mexico. But if Canelo's next fight is with a PBC fighter, Eddie's not a part of that party. The next super chat is Willie Lynch. Oh, come on, Julius. You know you want Frank. Oh, my God. No, I don't. I could go the rest of my life.
Come
I
on.
could go the rest of my life and never see Frankie Sanchez box again. I don't give a shit. And I'm a degenerate boxer, man. I will watch two cats fight on top of a roof
Keep
before I
keeping
watch
that
Frankie
don't
fucking
throw 20
Sanchez.
punches around off TV.
Now, Mark is raising the like it's the truth, bro. Tyson Fury's been running around here with an imaginary title that no one can see, and you don't think they'd franchise this guy? Of course they would.
I want people to harken back a little bit ago, right? When they were talking about the idea of Tyson Fury and Dillian White fighting before this situation, right? If y'all remember, Tyson Fury says, I'll fight him for a diamond belt.
Yes,
Bro,
he did say that.
Listen to patterns, fellas. Tyson Fury, right? He's had one defense his whole career. They had to get him into arbitration to fucking do it. He retired from the other one, right? Let's be real. The next one comes up, it's a mandatory with a guy, right? He's on his last stage of the contract. he can do the whole bullshit, and Top Rank can do it and just promote the way they did with Tiafimo versus Lomachenko as an undisputed fight anyway, and look towards doing it that way. Bob has made the most petitions for his fighters to be franchised in the whole sport, and it signs in perfectly, and it keeps away from Eddie Hearn, the Zone, and a possible Porsche grid situation where Tyson Fury has to go to the UK, even though he is from the UK, but away from America, where Bob doesn't have the invested intrigue or the promotional establish.
Because think about it this way. Whatever Bob offers Dillian, he can reject until the deadline hits. When the deadline hits, it goes to a purse bid. When it goes to a purse bid, here comes Eddie Hearn with his wallet. And he'll bid to have that fight in the United Kingdom. And Bob doesn't want to let it get to that point. I think he doesn't. If he does, then great, because I don't care where the fight happens so long as it happens. But if you're imagining a situation where I got one fight left with Tyson Fury, I got one fight left on the contract, I know fucking Eddie's going to try to get him on the Zone. I fucking know he is. I have to stop this because I need him to fight on ESPN. I don't need him to fight on the Zone. You know, the way you can stop it is to franchise him. If you franchise him, Dillian gets the world, Tyson gets the franchise, and we get fucked.
I can't take this franchise.
Dillian will fight Usyk or AJ.
But we
I'd
don't
rather
get
him just pay
fucked
step
because
aside
really,
money for undisputed.
but we don't get fucked because we get something else. We probably get Dillian Whyte versus Usyk/AJ for undisputed, and Tyson Fury gets no fucking fights.
Exactly, and then we're done with Fury and Wilder.
Oh, come on. All right.
But even the
That's not gonna happen.
casuals know
right,
that
you're
Dylan
idealizing
White's been in a mandatory for about 5 years. Even the casuals know. Everybody and their brothers and sisters, mothers and fathers know Dylan White is the WBC Mando. So if Fury goes and gets franchised, how does that look on Fury?
Oh, it's a blatant duck.
It's a duck.
No, I mean,
but his fanboys will say he
whole...
doesn't need to beat Dillian Whyte, right? Because this is their logic, right? This is their logic. He's already beaten Deontay Wilder and Klitschko 5 years ago, so he's already cleared out the division because everybody else and anybody else who's good does not matter. They don't matter.
The division only consisted of 2 guys, apparently.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why?
And everybody else.
I have a question. Why the pundits are so dismissive of these contenders, these guys that are climbing up the ranks?
Because Americans don't view. All right, I'm gonna, and I think that only Americans are gonna realize this. I don't like. Americans don't view boxing the way that, say, Mark or BoxWatch view boxing. They literally don't. I know this. Like, you'd have to be American to understand it, but they don't look at it the same way that you do. Like, I know that Mark, for example, probably wants fresh blood in a division, fresh new fighters, fresh new faces to make the division more interesting.
Absolutely.
Americans aren't like that. Americans will look at a piece of shit that they've already seen, but like Danny Garcia, he's a piece of shit. But because he's a familiar piece of shit, he beat Danny Garcia. Oh, he beat Robert Guerrero. Oh, like,
are you essentially saying that America is the autism of the world because it doesn't like change?
Okay, so in that logic,
it's like if you show them a shiny
is that what you're saying? America is the autism.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Right
okay,
that's fucked up. That's super.
Sorry,
fucked
yo,
that's what he said.
Look, he's not wrong.
I agree, though. I agree. He should have been a little look. We're the retarded stepchild. We are the retarded stepchild.
I want to say this. So in that logic, Tyson Fury, the only reason has been recognized for the USA people is because Deontay Wilder choose to fight him.
Yes, they didn't care about it. Look. All right, nobody say nothing. There's a video I have up on this channel. Back when I didn't even used to upload that many videos to this channel in 2015. Like I didn't upload much. I was more on Facebook in those days. And all the Americans after Fury beat Klitschko were shitting on Fury. They didn't even give him his flowers. Like they didn't give him his flowers at all. I made a video about like, yo, look, it was a shitty looking fight and it was boring, but you got to give the man his credit because he ended that reign. He ended that reign. Nobody else, right? The Americans only started qualifying Fury and Klitschko because of Wilder. Before that, they didn't care about either of them. They didn't care about Derek Chisora, Kubrat Pulev, Mike Perez, Alexander Povetkin, all that era of fighters that Klitschko was in, all those guys. They didn't care about none of them, all right? Everything began and ended with Wilder. And why? Because he was fucking American. That's the only reason, all right? The way Americans view boxing is not even the way that Brits view boxing. It's different. They even like look at Broner. They still talk about Broner like he's gonna do something, and it's only because they already know him. That's it. But if I tell you, yo,
Like that nigga's a viable contender, or some shit like that.
Like
Man,
if I
America
say,
disgusts me, B.
if I say, yo, I want Subriel Matias, they're gonna look at me like I'm fucking crazy. Who the fuck is Subriel Matias? Who the fuck is he? He didn't fight shit. Like, bro, I want.
That's a murdering ass nigga, B.
But
I
if you
have no
say
fucking
Yuri
doubt.
Ortiz Gamboa, if you say Gamboa, they'll be like, oh, he fought Terence Crawford.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Look.
I heard
Gamboa
that.
almost killed someone too.
When Tank fought Gamboa, oh, he gonna fight Gamboa. Yeah, he fought fucking Crawford like 1,000,000 years ago. He's not that guy anymore.
But Jack, remember the build up. Do you remember? Hold on. Do you remember the tank build up with Gamboa? They were literally saying, "Oh, can he stop him faster than Crawford did?" And he didn't, by the way. Like, but they were actually building it up like that.
But guys, but what about Azteca?
Oh,
Guys,
man.
what about Josh Taylor? Never fought Azteca.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like because Gamboa, because they know that. Never mind that Gamboa was on one leg. Never mind that Gamboa's been knocked down about 14 times ahead of
In
this
his
fight.
40s.
For the simple fact that they know him, they'll tell you if you bring up another lightweight, like say Emmanuel Tagoe or somebody like that, they'll shit all over him. If you bring up a Richard Comey, they'll shit all over him just because they know Gamboa and they don't know the other guy. They're like they're brain dead over here, and this is how they view boxing. Like if I said, look, if I tell Mark, hey Mark, you know that fucking Wilder about to fight Hrgovic, you know what I mean?
For you, I didn't hear you.
If I say, yo, matter of fact, I'm not even gonna bring Wilder in it. I'm gonna say, hey, yo, Mark, you know that Arslanbek Makhmudov and Hrgovic is about to fight. Mark
that's
know.
beast.
All right, now Mark know. Ooh,
That's
these
beast.
got. Who the fuck is them? Bunch of nobodies. And we're like, what's wrong with y'all, bro? It's like a fight like Felix Cash and Denzel Bentley, for example.
Oh, beautiful.
I
That
know
was
it was
a damn good fight too.
That was a damn good fight, right? And it was a damn good
that
fight.
was an annihilation.
And it was a damn good fight because you knew these are two prospects that both got, both sides of it are invested in. It's battle of the unbeatens, great fight. To Americans, they don't look at it that way unless you add the hype and the bullshit and the smoke and the mirrors and the bells and the whistles, because Americans have shiny spoon syndrome. They have
Julius, the first
To
time
be
I
fair,
ever
I
know.
think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that in the 90s and the 80s and Ali, we had this like golden era of heavyweights, and then we had the 84 Olympic team and all that.
Well, we're
And
spoiled.
one of the things Emmanuel Stewart talked about right before he died is that America used to, like the government used to invest in the amateur boxing program. And he said that his biggest fear, this was like 2 months before he died, was that they would start divesting from it. And the reason that they did is because we don't really have, I mean, we had Wilder, but it wasn't like he couldn't sell. I mean, he couldn't even sell out a stadium in his own country. He couldn't even sell out a Staples Center. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean about that.
No. But look. Let me say this about Wilder, right? Because I don't want to keep shitting on him, right?
I don't want to either.
I'm not.
I'll shit on him for you.
Not even that. Not even that. It's more along the lines.
I kind of still want to keep shitting on him because
I do too.
No, wait. Let me do this. What I mean is that I would have preferred if he could have been the things that people want him to be. I would have preferred that if he could have been that big draw and that big marquee fighter for us. I would have preferred that. But the reality of it is, for the first 7 years of this man's career, he did absolutely nothing. And even
Yeah.
after that, only in recent memory has he finally become a draw. Like, I can wholeheartedly say that beyond this Saturday's fight, now he's a draw. Now he can draw. Now he can, all right? Now. But that took from 2008 till, that's a decade, bro. That's a decade.
2008
That's
to 2018.
insane.
Too long.
It wasn't until he fought Ortiz that his name became more, that his stock rose.
I mean, let's just be
Because
real.
before that, it
Fury's
was
the
just
one that
flatline.
put him on the map.
Thank
He made all of
you.
his most money with Fury.
Thank
Period.
you.
Yeah.
And let's
Thank
not
you.
forget, he could have fought AJ before that.
He could have, but he didn't want to.
He could have fought Klitschko. Could have fought
He didn't want
Povetkin. She's
100.
over it.
Look, he didn't want $100 million. Okay, give him a break.
Exactly. You know, while we out here killing ourselves and killing each other for a couple of thou, he didn't want 100 mil. Listen,
He didn't want 100 million. I mean,
I said this
and
before.
Eddie Hearn called him
Fuck
out
that. We
on
killing
Twitter.
each other
Everybody
for
saw
fucking
it.
pennies.
He
Listen,
said, "I
listen.
thought AJ ducked you."
That's right.
Listen. I said this before in 2018 and 2017, right? And I'm pretty sure that you guys didn't see those videos. That I brought up how Americans were particularly resentful of the Klitschko brothers. They had no respect for the era and no respect for the era's fighters. And I talked about how Wilder, I don't actually believe he would have won. I actually believe he would have lost to the both of them. But let's just paint a scenario where he's the one that ended the Klitschko era. You bring boxing, heavyweight boxing, not just boxing, heavyweight boxing back to America. Because if you have those belts, you funnel the contenders to America. You bring it back to America.
The ring.
You didn't want to know. Wait. You let AJ take over the division. You let him do that. You let him get Charles Martin in the ring, even though he was your stablemate. He got him in the ring. So he gets the IBF. He gets the WBA. You let him do all the legwork. So he became the draw, and he brought heavyweight boxing because Tyson Fury, remember, Tyson won the belts, but he didn't stick around. AJ picked him up. He brings boxing back to the UK. Business is booming. You had the chance to do that first, and you didn't do it.
I mean, but I was saying, but remember, I mean, Shelly Finkel was never going to allow that. He was a baby, remember?
I mean, it is what it
yeah, and
is.
Fury won the title of Klitschko, but he wasn't loved in the UK.
No,
there was no love for Fury in the
UK. He was too controversial.
He's having his controversial moments and stuff.
Yeah, the minute he won, they were doing all those reports about him being like anti-Semitic and all this stuff, and the news was on him constantly.
And homophobic and all that.
He was too off the cuff to be a guy that the whole country can. And listen, I don't knock him. Live your truth and be who you are and all that good shit. But it's just he was too off the cuff to be mainstream. Now,
let's remember too. This is something that nobody mentions that much, but the way that gypsies are treated in England and all throughout Europe is they really are treated like second-class citizens.
Oh,
I'm not saying that it isn't warranted in a lot of ways, but well, look, I got people. Go ahead.
Hey, let me just read this super chat. Roger once told the truth. Most people don't know shit about boxing. Look at the fighters trending here if you want to know the state's boxing IQ, and that's a fact. Look. I'm not telling anybody that they have to like certain fighters, but you have to acknowledge who the top fighters are. And only in America will you get a pundit and a boxer talking about a consensus top 10 guy who's been waiting for a title shot for 4 years and talk about him like he's just a piece of trash.
It's Marvin Hagler as a heavyweight. Made him fight 40-something fights before he even got a title shot.
The Minter fight. The fucking Alan Minter fight.
Yeah, Alan Minter, exactly.
It's insane.
And look how and destroyed him. Like it's Sonny Liston when he fought against Floyd Patterson. They made him fight. Go ahead.
Well, no, wait. Because I know that he got a title shot before that. He got a title shot and he didn't. I think
Vito Antuofermo.
The Vito Antuofermo.
Yeah, Antuofermo. My bad.
Yeah, because that was his first title shot. And they robbed
they had to have Senator Kennedy interject in the whole bullshit. Like literally, they actually had to have an interjection with Top Rank.
The point being, though, that,
Bob
that he had to fight.
Bob Arum stated that a senator told him if you don't give Marvin Hagler a title shot, there's going to be a formal injunction and all that stuff. After that, he got a shot.
He literally had to change his
See, that's
name
what boxing
to
needs.
Marvelous.
That's what boxing needs, right there. You see, that's what boxing needs. You know, them type of
Absolutely.
interventions.
Needs a
Right
union.
there.
This is the
You
only thing.
need
This is
something
what
like that.
what we're talking about right now. All of us. This is what's gonna make them do this, though. Like everybody, like because it can't just be, like. And you were talking about pay-per-view
We need
numbers and all
money.
that stuff.
Sorry to cut
Yeah.
you off, bro. We need money. We need money.
Money.
We
No,
need
no, you're
money.
right. Money's
And we-
part of it, but the other part of it is
Yeah.
that we got to invest in what we believe in. And
Yes.
And we
I'm
got to
sorry to
stomp
say
out.
this.
We
No,
got to
wait.
stomp
Let
out
him
Bob
finish. Let him
Arum.
finish.
I was going to say, I'm sorry to say this, but this is the truth. A lot of people I know, like I buy the fights, and a lot of people I know don't even buy them. They'll bitch about how terrible it is and how greedy they are, but they'll stream it. And I'm not hating on it. I'm just telling it how I see it. You got to put the money. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what we're gonna do, Slap. This is what we're gonna do as a conglomerate, right? Because I've already started doing this, and y'all don't know the mind games that I be playing. That I'm shaming people into showing their receipts. I regularly show mine when I make a purchase, and if you don't show yours, you're just a fucking bullshit thief and a pocketbook snatcher and a pocketbook thief. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for the last 2 years. They're like, yo, show me your fucking receipt. Otherwise, don't talk to me about no. Like with the Clarissa Shields shit, the guy that wanted to argue about the shit. I'm like, look, dog, her fight ain't nothing but $30 motherfucking dollars. I already bought her shit. Did you buy her shit? Oh, you didn't buy her shit?
Look at music. People bitch about how bad music is nowadays, and one of the reasons is, what's the point of being an artist if everybody's just gonna steal your shit and share it online? So you gotta give these guys a reason to make moves too. That's all I was trying to say.
Now, what I'm gonna say is this: for the fights that are not pay-per-views, for the fighters that are not known, you understand? Because it's easy for me to sit here and make Deontay Wilder videos all fucking day, right? But you'll notice I cover the fights and I cover the fighters that are not getting talked about, like Maris Briedis versus Artur Mann. Like it's mandatory. Altuapia or whatever the fuck his name is. Lawrence Okoli, who's not a household name in this country. I don't just sit here. Like if you look out there at American boxing channels, what differentiates them from boxing channels from abroad is the people abroad. Yeah, they'll talk about the American fighters and the ones that we all know and love, but they don't just talk about them. Whereas the Americans that have a whole channel about Wilder and Davis. That's what the channel's about. Wilder and Davis. And
we need to say one thing, though, Jay.
Don't try to suggest that they'll try to lose.
We need to say one thing. It's not all American channels, because there are some really good channels, like yourself and like others in America, who do cover a lot. Like T Street, he covers so many different fighters in his post fights. Max and Intangible, they're covering like loads of these dudes. Like they're covering so many guys.
Listen, first, fuck Max, right? That's first.
But he does cover. He does cover a lot of guys.
That young boy. wait. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. That young boy can blow 1,000 fucking dicks. Right?
What if you run up and smack
I'm not with this. Listen, I'm not with the snake little kid shit. I make my feelings known. I wear my heart on my sleeve. What I'm gonna say is this. What I'm referring to. Wait. He's a prick.
There we go.
Fucking
like
prick. That. He's a fucking prick. All right. Now, prick.
Jesus Christ.
He's a fucking prick.
I feel this man's ire.
No. Let me be an adult. He's a fucking look. Let's stop. Can we stop this?
Look. Hold on, fella.
All right, listen. No, wait. Let me
get that prick out of here.
Let me champ this shit.
You little prick.
All jokes aside, what I was referring to is in the UK, you have massive channels like Hatman, massive channels like A Day, and they're not just talking about local boxers and just familiar faces. No, they cover the sport. Here, the biggest channels in America that cover boxing are talking about probably 5 fucking guys.
That's true. He's telling the truth.
And half of what they cover is pure cap.
Yeah.
The tuberculosis view.
Yeah. I mean, like when they're not talking about Wilder, they're talking about Spence. When they're not talking about Spence, they're talking about Crawford. They're not talking about Crawford, they're talking about Davis. And when they're not talking about Davis, they're talking about Evil Eddie, Evil Bob, and how 90% of boxing sucks except for Al Heyman. Who has an echo?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, who's echoing? Who's echoing?
Because to them, 90% of boxing sucks. You understand that? That unless it's this pocket, this very small pocket of fighters, 90 to 95% of the and like it's like your dog, like you can't honestly look at
Julius, can I sum it up? Can I sum it up with something like a few years ago? So I went to Froch Groves 2 at Wembley, and I was really happy to go. It's one of the best memories I'll ever have. Right, it was a huge event. Right, so I went there. I went onto like message boards and stuff like that back then. Right, like up on like boxing scene and all this jazz. Right, you remember? Now, when I was doing all of this, and I was talking about my experience there, every American who commented on that said that fight don't matter because it's not in the United States. I was talking about an amazing event, 80,000 people. Like it was so amazing. But that's what I got told, and that's when I realized American fans think very differently. Because when I seen Canelo do that stadium there with Callum Smith, I was like, wow, look at that. That's beautiful. That's fantastic. When I see people putting on stadium fights, or I see countries like in Japan, Murata getting 20 million views, I'm like, wow, that's incredible.
Now listen. I think for what it's
It's
worth.
been 8 years since Frost Grows. That shit crazy.
All right,
It's been 8 years.
Now, I think that the Americans are finally starting to come around, or at least some of the fans are, because they're starting to realize, do you know why Gennady Golovkin is fighting Ryota Murata in his country? Because he's a star, and Jamal, I should say, is not. That's why.
Neither is
Period.
Demetrius.
The only issue with that fight is the weight.
Either way, the point is, that dude could fight Emmanuel Blandamura and put up numbers that Jamal Charlo will never put up a day in his life. He could go the rest of his career and not put up the numbers that this man put up fighting Blandamura and Stephen fucking Butler. Millions upon millions upon you think I was lying if I showed you like, yo, this dude is, it's ridiculous the numbers this guy puts
It's like
up.
the fucking Beatles in Japan.
I'm telling you. So tack on a Gennady Golovkin to a Ryota Murata fight in Japan. Monstrous. And if you want your fighters to have fanfare, stop being a fucking cheapskate and subscribe or go to the fight or get the fight attention, because that's why American boxing is in the state it's in. It's because these motherfuckers are thieves. They don't want to buy nothing. They don't want to subscribe to nothing. They don't want to pay for shit. You got channels making money off of fucking fights they don't even buy. It's ridiculous. It's like,
I was going to say real quick too, DAZN, which I thought had a fantastic deal. They're actually they're going to have to go back to the pay-per-view format because everybody streams their shit.
Yeah.
They were just talking about it yesterday. They were talking about how they're going to have to move back to the pay-per-view model because they're not making enough money off the streaming.
They're doing that. See, this is the thing. That's not for me and you, bro. That move is not for me and you. That's for the Brits. And I believe that's for Anthony Joshua. I believe that's for Joshua versus Usyk. Me and you are not affected by that because I didn't get that survey. And
I didn't get it, by the way. I didn't get it in Ireland.
I asked every I asked a lot of the American fight fans I know, yo, did y'all get that? Because I know I didn't get the survey and I checked my email. But I asked UK Rob, shout out to Rob, if he thinks that that's for the Brits, and he's like, yeah, that shit is for the Brits, bro. That shit is probably
the
for
currency
that
is in
Can
pounds.
I say one thing though, Jay? I don't know anyone over here who got that.
In Ireland.
No, I don't know any Brits either. I don't know any Brits who got that. I actually think that's photoshopped because I was looking at the shadowing. It didn't look like the zone's actual one. I thought that was photoshopped.
Yeah, it didn't look like their own stuff at all.
All
And
I know is I
I've
ain't
been
got
subscribed
that shit.
since they very first started, so I thought I would have got that.
Me too.
I got none of that.
I just know I didn't get the fucking shit. And I'm like, bro, I got the annual and I didn't get the shit. I asked around. Nobody I knew got the shit. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe that shit is for the Brits. because they want to be able to get Joshua the kind of money that he'd make on a Sky Sports pay-per-view. I'm like, I just know I didn't get the shit, so I don't even know if the shit is real.
Mm-hmm.
Could be fake news. Who knows?
Anyway,
Oh, Rockstar is saying he got it.
Oh, I look, I didn't get it. Anyway, gentlemen, it's getting late, and I'm old. I'm going to sleep.
Go to sleep, you old bastard.
It's a lot of
Peace.
Hit
fun,
the like
guys.
button.
Thanks a lot.
Hit the like
Peace.
button.
Hit the
Hit the like
likes.
button.
Much
Hit the
love.
like button.